Okay, welcome everybody. Now I'm going to stop sharing. And I hope that you're ready for this evening's fourth segment. And this is going to be the finalization of, looking at to what's happening with COVID, the fact that the President Trump, they are refusing to look at the cure for COVID. And you have to ask yourself, why are our governments ignoring the Shanghai protocol that came out way back? And they weren't, our medical doctors were not supposed to be using that, and or weren't told about it. And the thing is, it's ironic that uh, a lot of people have faith in our politicians when it's our politicians who cause us our turmoil. And, when we have a government, a lot of people think, well, we have the power. But no, we don't. We only have the power to elect our next dictators. That's the sad reality, people. So it doesn't matter whether you live here in Canada under a um, monarchy, a constitutional monarchy, and it doesn't matter whether you're in a republic. We are all managed through business corporations, which is our governments. So really, you have the human being, and then that's supposed to be the way it's supposed to work is that all Canadians and all United States citizens, or you know. French people in France or the UK or Ireland or anywhere else, the people are supposed to be the shareholders of that corporation, and it's the shareholders that are supposed to have the final say. Okay, the decision makers. So it's pretty much like running a business. So a lot of people who don't understand business will have a hard time understanding this a little bit. But Canada is a crown corporation. uh, we vote in political parties, and our political parties have 100% control over everything and above our constitutions. And this is where the brainwashing and where I'm justified in saying politicians can never be trusted ever. Okay, because first of all, politicians should know what they're doing when they go into politics. Second, they should know our history. And third, they should work for the people. However, they're going to give you a whole bunch of propaganda to make you believe you have a say, to make you believe, oh, it's the people that rule in the end, and to make you believe that, they're going to do right by you. Oh, and we gave you, you know, rights and freedoms. Hello. The difference between the citizens and the government and who makes the laws is that the one in charge of veto power, which means the one that can say yes or no in the end, even above the judiciary, okay, are the ones in control of the final decisions. So in Canada and in every republic or monarchy or even duchy, it is the presidents or um, the government itself, the governing body. In France, the president is there, yes, but at the same time, it's the government that can make decisions. They just put the president there so they can throw darts at him, and blame him like we blame the queen here in Canada. Oh, the queen, the queen, the queen. Okay, well, listen. In the end, the queen has no say because all of her powers were transferred over back in the 1920s over to the government. Okay, completely. uh, England she had no powers under England for that other than her name being used under copyright laws. So our politicians were very underhanded. And to make a long story short, I'm not going to get into this right now, but to make a long story short, our politicians made sure that all we could do was vote for them and, elect a new party. And if you look at the history, well, then you'll be able to see who was pulling the strings of our politicians and who got them into power, the corporations. Okay. So, anyway, now fast track 2020. 2020, I mean, I mean, it's almost perfect, okay? Because hindsight is 2020. And this is when we're stuck in our homes and we're under healthcare martial law. It is martial law. Our rights are all suspended in all of our provinces. Our premiers made sure of that. They get to make decisions above the legislatures without the, So people are going to start waking up, and they are, and some of them have. But we're at a point in time where you need to make a decision. It's either our freedom or our enslavement. Being monitored, having checkpoints, having to have your papers. So welcome to Germany, because that's exactly what's happening. But some people are all lopping it up. Oh, well, we have to because this thing is going to kill us. Well, frankly, I'd rather be dead. Okay. If I had to choose between having to get vaccinated and getting a passport and having to be scanned every time or judged, or getting a social credit if I'm eating chips, and a negative if I haven't donated this week, oh, now I'm a bad person. I can't, take a cab, or I can't use the highway, or I can't take a train or a plane, or this is happening, people. They've been living like this in China for quite some time. They finally launched, they have the cameras everywhere. And what is 6 feet distancing for? Not just to make sure you don't catch a virus. It's to be able to scan you. Okay. So if you want a job, you'll be scammed. If you scammed, you are scammed. You'll be scanned. Okay, there goes my French. But anyways, yeah, you'll be scanned everywhere you go. Everything you purchase, it's just like with our smart meters. If you turn on the dryer, then they know, Hydro knows you just turned on your dryer, or the computer does anyway. They know if you're looking in the fridge too long, and all of a sudden it starts. So all of these things, your smart TV, careful with your smart TVs and all these nice smart appliances they want you to get, the Internet of Things. So anyway, in the other previous videos, I skimmed a bit about the Security Prosperity Partnerships agreement that started in 2008. And yes, the Conservatives are just as guilty as the Liberals and every other political party that ever served Canadians since the 1930s. Okay, 1931. All scammers, all hypocrites, or all ignorant and didn't know their jobs. So if they're too ignorant, don't know their jobs, don't know their history, don't know why they should be in there, and do not stand up for the people as the final decision makers in Canada, to be the final decision makers in Canada, you're a lying cheat. You're a hypocrite, and you're working for yourself, not for the people. And I stand by that. So anyways, the bottom line is that we shouldn't even be voting at all until we get our final decision-making authority. Remove the Queen. The Queen doesn't need to be there. She's just a showpiece. No power. Neither does the Governor General. Why? And I've covered this as well, constitutional conventions. So because they've agreed behind closed doors between the parliament, the government, okay, the ministers and the premiers, they agreed a long time ago, back in the 20s, that the Governor General is just there as a figurehead, and he still has those rights in the Constitution, but because of a political constitutional convention, which is an agreement that they made between themselves that doesn't, it's part of our Constitution, but you don't get to see it because it's the unwritten part. And this is how England scammed all of their people for years. So what did Canada do in the other 15 countries that decided that, oh, now, you know, these politicians and the elite could control these countries and take the natural resources and steal it from the people and the indigenous nations, adding insult to injury. You know, I mean, Canada was launched under the Hudson's Bay Company and, you know, Rupert's Land. Rupert's Land, that was a trading company. They didn't own the land. That was just trading rights. But they turned it, as sleazy as they were, they turned it into ownership of land against the First Nations. So when people think, you know, well, you know, why are they so nasty towards us? Well, can you blame them? Canadians are responsible for our politicians. We are responsible, you know, to see what's going on in our country. We are responsible for our children's futures. We are responsible every time they screw up, because it's our job. It's our job. So now tonight, it's the little finale of my little segments, because you have a decision to make. Enslavement or freedom, what's it mean to you? If you want your freedom, then you need to take action. And if you want to take action, we've already come up with a solution. We already have all of the details set up for a court case to be able to really stipulate what we need and to be able to debate as to why we have our rights, even though they'll try not to give it to us. Okay, because judges too are just as crooked. They're paid, bought and paid for. Some of them are trying, but you know, their hands are forced. So everybody would rather, you know, not ruffle feathers and, oh, you know, be nice and just take it. But all of yous out there helping them do this global governance, you're all guilty. You're all guilty of stealing the freedom from humanity, your own children, and of yourself. Ding, 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 ding. Ha, ha, ha. Hey. Should we really be afraid of a virus to give away all of our freedom? Like I told you, I'd rather be dead. What's the point in living if 6-month-old babies in a carriage are going to be accused of, oh my God, you know, you're within 6 feet of, how come you've got him out and you don't have a mask on him, or, you know, put some gloves all over him, wrap him up and saran wrap if you have to. He's going to kill me. People can be so stupid. It's beyond belief. I mean, we've got into, you know, fluoride in the water. No, shoot. No, bleep, Sherlock. Okay. Yeah, it's affected a lot of brains for sure. So we're seeing the results of that today when people are trying to take back their freedom against the other ones who are paranoid. Oh, it's a conspiracy theory. Well, you know, anybody who says that losing our governance is a conspiracy theory, you need to lock yourself up in your house and stay there. Or, but no, wait, you're going to go and get vaccinated and you're going to be a good little player and a good little sheep. You don't care about your freedom. You don't care about your children's freedom. Do you even care about life? So anyways, enough with that, but we need to think about these things. What does life and freedom mean to us? What does our national sovereignty mean to us? For me, national sovereignty means that the Canadian people and the Indigenous nations have the right to decide what happens to our natural resources, to our environment, to what the corporations can and cannot do in this country, how much they can take and make money off of and take away from the people. That's our right to decide. The Bank of Canada, why take the government to court for the Bank of Canada or for chemtrails or for Monsanto or for this and that if you're not going to change the system? You're wasting everybody's time. The system needs to change. The politicians need to step down and do their job without final decision-making authority, because that belongs to we the people above them. We will decide what happens with our monetary system. We will decide which corporations can come and cannot come in here. We will decide how our foods will be grown. We will decide if we have to be sprayed with chemtrails. A lot of what's going on right now is relative to that. People coughing, having respiratory problems, where now, phlegm is starting to harden. What are they spraying us with? Have you asked that question? Have you asked yourself why somebody like Bill Gates, who Rockefeller's own Bayer owns Monsanto, and then Bill Gates owns part of Monsanto. So make the people sick, give them money for latrines, make them poop all they want. The pharmaceuticals and the doctors pushing antibiotics, and let's put antibiotics into the feed of, into the animals. And then you eat that. And then mix all that up. And then they're wondering why certain areas are catching COVID. Other areas, people are, asymptomatic. Are you really asymptomatic? Did you even get it? Can you even trust the tests? This whole existence is a scam for money. How many times will you hear the scientists say, well, they work for a corporation, they get funded by that corporation, but they can't tell you the truth of their findings because they'll get fired and they will get no more funding. The CDC, the FDA, all funded by pharmaceuticals and the big corporations. Here in Canada, how many people have a hard time getting, their sick leave and sick benefits because the corporations are the ones who pay for the government agency? Think about it, people. Now that you're at home and you've got lots of time, and you're going to keep having lots of time if we don't stop the crap that's happening in this country and lock up Justin Trudeau and everybody that is helping, Tam, everybody needs to be locked up because this is criminal. Even though they have immunity, this is criminal. But are we going to be able to charge them criminally? No. Not until we take back our power. Then after that, hey, who knows? He needs to start getting down on his knees and crying for forgiveness to Canadians and First Nations and to people worldwide, because he's just propagating the bullshit of global governance and making everybody suffer. All the lies that they'll embellish, global governance on and over, everybody's going to be happy. No, the minute that they can take away your power, you have zero power. The only way that we can do this is to make sure that legally they can never, ever, ever take the rights of the people again. Okay, ever. And you can only do that by making a political move, not a common law move, a political move. Okay, because the difference, it's the ones who have the political power that create the laws, and all the others have to follow it. That is the ones who have final decision-making authority. And the political power supersedes the Constitution. Okay? So, are you going to want to take your power now? You can do so by going to thepowershift.ca and signing your Citizens Convention of Consent, helping us to get the word out, because we can't do this on our own. We can't save your country for the future of your children without you. Okay, that's the bottom line. This is going to be a hell of a fight, and I'm ready. I'm ready for all the arguments the lawyers are going to try to come up with, because even constitutional lawyers, but I'm not afraid of constitutional lawyers because they've been so brainwashed. They forgot to make any debates as, excuse me. Jeez. Oh well, more country. Sorry about that. But no COVID. And but anyways, to come back to what I was saying is that when we have these politicians, okay, and to be able to make a political move, we need to do it by signing the Convention of Consent on the powershift.ca. We need people to help us financially and physically, and to go from house to house and to pass this information along. The information about COVID needs to be passed. The information about the protocol needs to be, print them up, hand them to your neighbors, and get everybody to start thinking about, never mind these vaccines they want us to take, never mind having to be registered for anything, for new ID and everything else, because that's the end game. See this here? Okay, behind me, okay? All of these things, okay? That's your future. They're making it sound like really rosy. Agenda 21. COP 21 was to cop us to death. What you think's coming? But in order to cop us to death, they need to install 5G. Even though they're denying it, deny. Okay, that's all we've been hearing. Oh, it's a conspiracy. Yeah, guess what? They need that 5G to make sure that you can look at your phone before you can go out the door. It's happening around the world, people. Stop listening to CBC, Global News, all these little shills, these little puppets for the elite. These people should be ashamed of themselves. Sorry, cat fight. Yes, you want to check to see? I think we've got a cat in our door that wants to come in and doesn't belong here. But anyways, never short of excitement around here. But anyways, to come back to this, if we don't stop this now, we're in trouble. And the people, everybody in media right now who aren't looking around and wondering why doctors are stepping up, why some scientists are just frustrated. And there's a new study coming out. And they've been doing this study, and I'm later during the week, I'll show it to you, but I'm waiting for the final results. And so far, they're seeing that why, like in the United States, why is it different regions that get COVID or tests, more milder or or not, or don't even have it? Again, we have to look at our food. I don't want to freak you out over our food, because really, is COVID going to kill you? No. There's other underlying reasons for COVID. And Dr. Corey says it, COVID doesn't kill. The people were already having problems. What does kill? C. difficile. So once I'm done my final research on what I'm doing, okay, I'll be able to show it all to you. And it's about connecting the dots as to where this is all coming from. And it makes me laugh because the UK is, under global governance. And when you look at to see what's Canada's part in this, can't find it. Why? Because Canada's getting eaten up. And this is going to make all these Trump lovers happy under the United States. Because we're not smart enough. People think that Mr. Trump is so good. Why is Mr. Trump making sure that the cure for COVID is not out there? Oh, he'll talk about, oh, well, he's mentioning, what is that? Chloroquine. Anyways, okay, that's one thing that people can take. But at the same time, why is he suppressing the steroids? Why is he pushing the vaccines? But, oh, you can't come out until, we can vaccinate everybody. Ever wonder that? Did you ever really research to see where their hands, the United States' hands, is heavily involved in this global governance? Because why? Open government and everything falls under the United States. Where do you think you think the UN is really run overseas? Ah, the United States, baby. The World Bank, where does it originate from? The United States, baby. Okay. How many years has it been since it's, well, actually, since its inception? The World Bank, okay, allows the United States to decide who the president of the World Bank will be. All of this that's happening comes from the World Bank, people. The World Bank sits on top of the UN. The UN is just a controlled opposition against humanity. We're at war, people. The oligarchs, the politicians, and the elite to control everything we do. And now we've become clients in our own countries. We have one chance. You know, I kept warning everybody, but nobody listened. Same with, the book 1984. Nobody believed him either. So tonight, it's about making you think about your next move, and you need to take action. Doing nothing won't save your ass. Doing nothing won't save this country. Doing nothing won't protect your children. In Quebec, they've gone back to school. Kids are coming back with huge rashes on their arms, okay, all red from using the antiseptics. Purell. Purell is burning the skin off of these children. Is that the kind of life you want for your family now? Walk around with a mask or with your ID, and you can be asked anytime you're out on the street like the Gestapo? I hope and pray that what we have told you really resonates, and that you think about this, because you know what? The term New World Order came out of Bush Sr.'s mouth back in 71. In Montreal, 2009, they were having their 5th annual meeting for the New World Order. Who was there? Liberals and the conservatives together. Always remember, we are nothing but cattle or sheep inside of a maze, and there's only 2 exits, and they control both with your mind, okay? They control all of our minds. They already know where we're going to go. Hundreds of thousands of people are doing their bidding every day. Some know, some don't even realize it. Scholars, big time. McGill University, the people there. York University. All of these other universities. You know, you need to look, the scholars need to look at themselves. You've created your own, our enslavement. The almighty buck, right? Who's your God now? Are you going to help humanity, or are you still going to help yourself to make sure you can go out with your little passports and your vaccines and be good little, sheep? So anyways, tonight is more like a rant, but I really want to hit those points with you. And it's not easy to do what we do, because we've got so much ignorance from people that make absolutely no sense, and other people, are we're gonna go out and fight. Yeah, you and whose army? Because now we've got drones, okay, that can spy on you. So they're gonna make us sick, make sure, they used health to get us to do their bidding and for us to listen. In any normal circumstance, would you be doing what you're doing today? You'd say, hell no. And you'd be marching down to Parliament. Or, well, Canada's kind of spread out, so we can't be like France and all march. You know, and to ask for just referendums is sheer stupidity without having veto power to begin with. The only thing that matters here, people, the only way you can get freedom, true freedom, and to be totally in control, for the people to be in control of our governments and our natural resources and our future, is veto power. Final decision making authority. And, you know, right now we have to wait till they give us a referendum. And then they pretend that, oh, it's the people's voice. It's all bullshit. Okay? Bleep, 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 bleep me all you want, but it's bullshit. Okay? When they decide to give us a referendum, even though we have no guarantees, we have no guarantees that they're telling us the truth. Do you want to take a chance with your children's future? Right now, we're stuck between a rock and a hard place, and you got to make a move. And that move, while you're sitting at home, stuck at home, go online. They want to make sure that everybody can get online, right? Well, what's your excuse now? Still, some people aren't online yet, but they will be, because they need to be for 5G. The Internet of Things. Oh, it's going to be so cool, right? They feed you the carrot and then they take it away. So watch and see. We knew about this in 2008. Nobody listened. How many of us could see this? Okay. Oh, conspiracy theorists. It's a reality, folks, and it's here. So, like I said, at least the solution is there. All the debates that they could ever come up with against us in court, we're ready. Oh, we're very ready. Okay, it's here. So all we need now, we've done all our work. We just need you and your family and your children and everybody else to sign their Citizens Convention of Consent if you value your freedom. So now what I'm going to do, because you haven't really heard about this COVID, okay, we need to, that's the number one. First, we need to spread the word. COVID can be cured and fixed with steroids. I know that some steroids, it's not good to take steroids either, but I would rather take a steroid than give up my freedom, okay? Because without freedom, I'd rather be dead. There's no point in living this life. What's the use? You know, 6 feet apart. What's restaurant life going to be like? I mean, how are you going to socialize? Everything. And then because we're so afraid of this virus that 98% of the people don't even get affected by, hardly. Come on. You're going to give up your freedom for that? Are you serious? You're going to be afraid. Oh, you're more afraid of death than you are of life? Seriously? You're more afraid of death than you are of life? If we have no life, hey, I'm all in. Death better come and get me, because I don't want to see this. What's going to be the point? I'm not telling everybody to go and commit suicide. I'm telling everybody, get up, let's fight. And make sure that, yes, the meek, the humble will inherit the earth. The ones who can stand up, the ones who have the balls to protect everybody on this planet from oligarchy and control and extermination, because that's what they're doing, people. They've killed more people with their regulations and doing what they did with this lockdown than this COVID virus ever could, even if it had the potential to kill. Is that not insane? Is that not a criminal act? It is a criminal act in every sense of the word. It's an act against pure creation. it's totally against creation, what they're doing now. They are the murderers, not somebody who's not walking around with a mask on and covered up to the gills. I saw a video today that they are spraying, the IGA is being sprayed down. All the cans, all the food, they're spraying stuff on it. Now, are we guaranteed that that's not going to poison everybody? Everybody touching these cans and these bags, and then it goes all over the food and the vegetables and everything else? What happens when you bomb your house for insects? Huh? Psh, no more bugs. You killed everything inside the walls. If your cupboards weren't closed and everything protected, would you eat? So you had left some apples and bananas or whatnot on the counter after you just bombed your house for insects. Would you eat it? This is what they're doing to us. Okay, this is what they're doing to us. So anyways, I really want to explain to you that yes, in Canada, if you don't make this move, we have zero rights. Legally, we have no rights. The government is totally legal. Totally legal. We don't have the right to go and write new constitutions and say, well, we're going to do our own thing. You don't have the right to do that in Canada. It's illegal. Okay. So first things first, you need to decide what you want to do. You want to fight for your freedom and the freedom of your children, then you go to the powershift.ca, all one word, the powershift.ca, or the Canadian People's Union. You'll find the forms there too. And then help us spread the word. So what I'd like to do is show you the 14 minutes of the video that nobody really saw yet. It's not in any of my segments, but I've added on to the video of Dr. Corey when he explains, what the protocol is. And I'm not saying that this is the best protocol, but at least right now, the people they treated, nobody died. Okay. And they walked away. Those who were on their deathbeds went home. So I'm going to play this for about 14 minutes. Then after that, we're just going to go back a little bit. And then I'm going to call this a night and the end of our segment. And but not before we tell you another little secret that we know. Okay, so I'll be right back because I will do a screen share again. And actually, I'm going to bring this down. There we go. Okay. Oh, I have a mouse. I'm so sorry. God, those cats scared me. And then I was afraid that they'd be pulling at each other. Anyways, it's going to be a good one. Well, hopefully, we have a few billion views. Okay. There we go. And I'm just going to arrange this here for you. Okay.
Hello, everyone. Dr. Howard Kornfeld. I'm a board-certified emergency physician. I have been honored to, in the last several weeks, meet some of the top critical care specialists working on the front line of the COVID crisis. These are innovative doctors who have recognized that the standard protocols are not working. As we could see in New York, it's a disaster, and that disaster is coming to other cities. So I was thinking of asking Pierre Kory to maybe introduce the subject further to help explain why this incredibly powerful treatment, which all of you are providing, is not being provided, and how we can help change the situation very, very quickly.
Yes. When we talk about the therapy, I mean, there's a few therapies that we have in mind, but I would say that the core and the most powerful of them would be the use of corticosteroids in combination with intravenous ascorbic acid. This is, hospital grade, intravenously delivered, where we delivered at relatively high doses, and we maintain those concentrations in the blood by giving it every 6 hours. And it works synergistically with the steroids. And we found many people have reported, I think all of us on this panel have published or done research or reported our results using those the two main drugs in combination in critical illness states, especially in severe infections and septic shock. But whenever you make a strong claim around a vitamin, I think most people, most doctors are very conservative and skeptical of such claims. And so it's very hard for most physicians to adopt the therapy fully. In critical care, we have achieved dramatic reductions in morbidity and mortality, largely around mechanical ventilation, judicious use of fluids and different antibacterials. And we have these great outcomes. But here comes COVID. And what's happening here is the crisis is that I think we're not starting effective treatments early enough and aggressively enough. And as a result of that failure, our ICUs are filling, our ventilators are running out. We're now forced to devise these ingenious ways of splitting ventilators to ventilate multiple patients. And, one of the core principles of critical care that we might be forgetting is that time is of the essence. You need that we call it the golden hour of resuscitation. So as soon as someone falls ill, that's when the interventions need to be started. And I think the answer is actually not in the ICUs. I think by the time they get to doctors like us on this panel, we're going to struggle, even with the powers that we have with these therapies working synergistically. My appeal is to the doctors out on the front lines, the doctors who are first laying eyeballs on them in the wards, that we have to change our strategy here. It's not working.
So just a few points with reference to COVID. So I think it's really important to treat patients for the disease they have and not for the disease we want to give them or we think they have. So there are really three fundamental concepts. Firstly, this is not typical ARDS. And if you intubate them early and put them on a ventilator, you're going to damage their lungs. You're going to harm them. Number two, this is a profound hyperinflammatory state. They have these ground glass opacities, which is inflammation, not fluid. And you need to give anti-inflammatory drugs. This is not the virus that's hurting the host. It's the acute inflammatory dysregulated response. That's why you need to use vitamin C and steroids. Steroids play a critical role in the synergy between vitamin C. The third point is these patients come in with a profound hypercoagulable state, which is somewhat unique to COVID. So we believe that you need to anticoagulate them up front. And indeed, if you look at the Shanghai guideline, they did two things or three things. I mean, it's truly remarkable, and I didn't appreciate it when I first read it. They gave heparin, they gave vitamin C, and they gave steroids. So that's the first point. The second is you need to treat these people early. as I think Dr. Varone and Dr. Corey and Dr. Iglesias will reinforce. If you wait for them to crash and you wait for them to land up on a ventilator, the Titanic is already sinking. You have to intervene early and aggressively to prevent them deteriorating. And in this way, you can prevent them landing up on the ventilator, which is actually harmful.
Having seen what vitamin C could do, I decided to start giving vitamin C very early. Let's say you are a patient that comes to me with shortness of breath and an abnormal CT scan, like the ones that has circulated among some of us. I mean, that is the moment when I put you in my intermediate unit and I start you on the cocktail. And, we've had several variations of what we have done for the cocktail, but I have not had a single death, not one death. And, and I'm getting slammed with 4 to 5 admissions to the unit minimum. So, you don't need to sell me the vitamin C thing. I know it works.
Yeah, what I'm hearing is that in these 24 patients, using Dr. Marek's protocol, essentially, with some variation, you have had no deaths. Is that correct?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If you start it early, your patients will not even need to be intubated.
Vitamin C had a profound effect, and clearly there's a synergistic effect with the use of corticosteroids. Therapy early is of the utmost importance. This is these patients start getting very inflamed by about 5 or 6, and because the ERs are already congested, they're coming in at that time period to where the point they're going to get that subgroup of patients, that endotype of patients that has that coagulopathic and inflammatory response is going to be there, and that probably earlier treatment is when you're going to start seeing a better effect.
The corticosteroids work in viral pneumonia. Well, there are 2 large studies in patients with SARS, more than 5,000 patients. And there is another large study in patients with A1N1, all from the Chinese literature, indicating that the use of methylprednisolone, that is the one recommended by the task force of the Society of Critical Care Medicine, Intensive Care Medicine from Europe, is associated with a significant reduction. The reduction in mortality was 50%. The protocol for steroids has been recommended by the Chinese, Korean, Japanese, and Italian society. So it is already a part of the guidelines there.
The point that all the physicians are making is really early treatment. A lot of the thoughts before was to start once they get to the ICU, but what we're now finding, because the ICUs are now being overwhelmed, is to start as soon as they come into the emergency room. As soon as they're identified with COVID-19, able to start that treatment within that first 6-hour time window, we can prevent a lot of these people from ending up in the ICUs. And know that we're actually down to less than 15% capacity for ICU beds in New York City.
When we talk about early treatment, we have to recognize that many centers around the country have long turnaround times for tests. I would say in any high clinical suspicion of COVID, it should be started. What it really is a life-saving therapy.
That's it.
And it's actually been proven to be life-saving in the condition that is killing the world. The condition called acute respiratory distress syndrome. The patients are dying of overwhelming inflammation. We need to marshal our therapies that are directed at suppressing that inflammation. It's key to keeping these patients alive.
I think that the patients coming in already to the ER have selected themselves out in one major direction, particularly if they have pulmonary findings. They are clearly most likely of a pro-inflammatory and coagulopathic genetic endotype, that a large percentage of them will end up very ill very quickly. They've already been at home sick for several days, so they're already at that time point where they're at that kind of hill before they go downhill. And that's when we should treat them from the emergency room.
So the common denominator in these 5 physicians who are at the front lines, critical care units, watching or actually ordering the drugs themselves, is that intravenous vitamin C, intravenous ascorbic acid, along with corticosteroids, given at the right time, not for mild illness, This is for when the oxygen is dropping, the virus is essentially taking over the lungs. A massive inflammatory response is occurring, and it needs to be done extremely expeditiously within hours, if possible, of presentation to emergency rooms. This, as far as we understand, is not what's being done in a widespread way yet in the United States.
I think patients are dying needlessly, and I think this is a terrible shame that we're allowing this to happen. It is an outright shame. We have effective therapies that can alter the course of the disease. We need to institute them early, aggressively, and we need to prevent patients deteriorating and landing on a ventilator. Once they land on a ventilator, we know their course is prolonged. The mortality may be up to 60 to 70%. It takes them a long time to get off the ventilator, and we really have no idea of their functional capacity once they get off the ventilator. We have to do everything in our power to aggressively treat them to prevent them going onto the mechanical ventilator.
People that are presenting to the hospital are already a group of sickest patients. Remember, 80+% are being treated at home. So it's that 20% or even maybe even less that are sickest. So that's why it's so important to treat early. They've already been self-selected out to be the sickest of the patients being infected with COVID-19.
Okay. This week I received a paper thanks to my aunt, whom I love dearly. And but I knew about this. But just to give you a little bit of background why I'm so upset tonight after seeing this video and you know, having to put all this on the website. Like, what we do is not easy. We have to look at everything that's going on this planet, and it's very depressing. But my aunt sent me an actual document from the Quebec government, and I know that all the provinces got this. And when these doctors are saying that, the WHO, you know, are saying don't touch these, you know, you got to give minimal care to these patients. In the paper, it says that when somebody is getting a heart attack, the EMTs and everybody are no longer allowed to massage your heart. They can only use defibrillators. Okay. So, but I knew about this before because a friend came over and we were talking, and she was saying that her husband is on dialysis and he goes 5 times a week. And his heart stops during the dialysis, and usually the nurse would massage his heart. Well, now the nurse is no longer allowed to massage the heart. So now every time he goes into dialysis, they are terrified. So, you know, when you look at all this in the bigger picture and you look at the responsibility of our governments, of our politicians, of our premiers and our prime minister and the healthcare, Dr. Tam and everybody, the heads of management of all of our hospitals throughout Canada, throughout the world, there's blood on your hands. Either it's, you know, we can't say that, oh, it's negligence or incompetence or anything like that. This is deliberate. When you see what's behind me, global governance, and you start reading everything and how they've planned our futures, what they've done with this COVID is criminal. And they all need to be locked up. There's no excuse for this. And like the doctors were saying, by the time these people come into the hospital, they've waited because they were told to stay home, not to overload the hospitals. And did you see, like even like Shanghai, how long did they know about this treatment? But those wanting to control this planet and everybody on it and even destroy people, because how can they explain this away? The mistake that they've done with this lockdown and what they've done to humanity bears huge responsibility. And, you know, there's so much involved here. And this is why it's so important that you go to the powershift.ca and sign your Citizens Convention of Consent so we can do something about this. We can't do it without 51% of Canadians having signed this thing. And for the Indigenous nations to get together, because they're going to lose everything under this pandemic, under this martial law, and under this new world government. Treaties no longer matter. Treaties are destroyed. I don't know how many times I have to say this, but this is it, folks. This is it. As much as we tried to get this done beforehand, and everybody who, you know, thought they knew it all and knew it all, okay? Thanks to them, people who don't do their research or believe everything they read without digging further, your research is only as good as how far you go. Doesn't mean you're going to have the right answers, but what's going to count is, you know, in court, who's going to have the last say? You have to make sure that you've got everything covered with everything that these lawyers are going to come at us, or the judges, to try and stop us from taking our power. Because once one country takes its power back, it's going to be a domino effect. Unless these people start growing a soul, because obviously up till now, none of them have a soul. To be able to do what they do without consideration, because they think they're right, is beyond anything I've ever seen. Living in the Twilight Zone, yeah, for sure. But you know what? Even if we'd say, oh, well, you know, they're going to rot in hell. This is the end times, and they brought it about themselves. The end times of our countries as we've known them. You know, anything would be is better than what's coming. But yeah, it's the end times of how we live. Enslaved or free. The decision is yours. Okay, so I'm going to let you go with that. And I, you know, and now that everything's calm in here and no cat fights, we're fine. But the good news that I have is that given the research that I'm doing, we're going to be able to see exactly, you know, you're going to be able to see exactly which parts were more infected than not. And kind of itchy here. But anyways, it's going to give us an idea of exactly what connections there is to human feces in as fertilizer, air quality, what's been happening with the changes. Because if you look at, since they allowed the use of human feces in countries that we're getting our foods from, you know, we're going to have to start looking at our food companies and our grocers and see where they're getting their foods, and even our local markets. What are they doing? Are they growing? Are they using this human feces as fertilizer, or are they mixing it with the animal fertilizer? And then even the animal fertilizer, you know, now that it's infested with antibiotics. But now, anyways, everything can pretty much get traced back, if my suspicions are right, to antibiotics. And that's the issue. That's the culprit. And not all antibiotics are bad, okay? But it's corporations who have dropped the ball. And, you know, they've dropped the science and cut the corners. It's like, you know, building a house and forgetting to make your foundation solid. So what's happened, from what I've seen since 2000, is that, yes, maybe at first they were following guidelines, but now who's following the guidelines, right? And then you have Bill Gates, part of Monsanto, you know, getting latrines for farmers in Africa who don't even care about the time limits that they have to, you know, in what they can use these feces for, and how, you know, the land has to turn around over 5 years before, and the WHO says 6 months, but we can't believe anything the WHO says, because they're manipulated by the oligarchies and all of these big corporations that are going to rule, and our governance, okay, under the public-private partnerships. And, you know, we're going to be stuck as having them to do our governance. So is this what you want? If not, please get to the website ASAP, thepowershift.ca. Doesn't cost you anything. That the Convention for Consent is free for you to sign, and everybody, what happens is when you sign, you agree with everybody else who signed. Okay, we're just the holders of the convention, the legal agreement. It is a political declaration of independence. So if you want to have your freedom, please go and sign it. If you're okay with enslavement and blood on your hands, because anybody supporting these governments right now have just as much blood on their hands. And that's murder, people. Not massaging people, because now you have to follow guidelines. You know, like this gentleman, when he goes in for his dialysis, now the nurses can't touch it because they're going to get sued by the government, or they're going to get fired. So they have to watch these people die. Welcome to insanity. What about the Hippocratic Oath? First, do no harm. What is worse than cancer right now, what is worse than this COVID, is that Mr. Justin Trudeau and everybody else, all the premiers in every province, you are responsible. Okay? Because every time you add another COVID death, that's another stain on you. That's another murder charge. And I will leave you with that. So good night. Bless everyone. Stay safe. And decide what you want for your life, because your decision affects all of us. Okay? So thank you and good night.